Hey everyone, it's Nate here with Element Van Life. Just wanted to do my Tuesday Q&A video. I do these every other Tuesday. The way it works, just post your questions below and then I will answer them in the next Tuesday Q&A video. The next one will be on December 27th, but I'm probably going to be recording it before I go home for the holidays, so it'll probably be closer to the 23rd or 24th. So if you have questions, be sure to get them in before that weekend on the 23rd, and I'll answer them on the Friday and then upload the video on the Tuesday. Let's get started, guys. We got a lot of great questions to go over. First one comes from Lil Dog 913. Say, hey Nate, I appreciate you answering my question in last week's Q&A. No problem. And then it looks like there's a follow-up question here about what type of business I started after I was working my sales job that I had talked about in the last video. I had started a consulting business in the same field that I was working in for the sales job. Next question comes from Mr. BR549. It says, hi Nate, I've been watching your could just be MRBR549, I'm not sure. I've been watching your videos since you started and have watched your channel grow by leaps and bounds. By the way, you may have Q&A videos more often. Yeah, the last video did get pretty long. I'm thinking about maybe next year making them weekly instead of bi-weekly, but we'll see. My question is, if you could go back in time, but only for a minute to when you started your journey, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself and why? Remember, you only have a minute. Oh, geez, that's a good question. I think in that minute it would have to be words of encouragement, and I sort of dwelled on the idea of van dwelling for a long time. You know, it took me like a couple of years to actually pull the trigger and do it. And I think if, you know, in that 1 minute, if I could just go back and tell myself that like everything is going to be fine, that it's not a pathetic, horrible life choice, and that because there were times where I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to live in a car, like it's going to, like, you know, the same kind of mentality that people would have or generally do have about the whole van life and car living lifestyles. And I would love to just go back in time and say like, shut up, like don't worry about it, like it's not a big deal, it's totally acceptable and it makes perfect sense to do this. And then maybe I would have pulled the trigger a little bit sooner and actually done it. When I left my job, I was just talking about the consulting job, but when I left my sales job and moved into the consulting thing, I mean, I could have saved so much money by not having rent. And that was like right in the winter time. I mean, I absolutely could have, I definitely could have saved, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on rent if I had just had the guts to actually do this then instead of, you know, 2 years later. So definitely just do it, go for it. That would be my words of advice. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, but it is what it is. Next question comes from Michael Peterson Jr. They say, Nate, how is the Element doing after you had the starter replaced and any issues that were addressed? Glad to see you got it running. Hope all is well. Yeah, the starter has been okay. It's been starting up really well, so that's good. A couple issues with the ECM, possibly. I really haven't diagnosed it yet. I haven't really had time to really get in there and figure it out. I haven't really done anything, though. I haven't changed the battery yet or anything like that. I mean, I did have a headlight go out, and then coincidentally the other one went out, and I'm hoping that it's not related to electrical issues, but the one that went out second I had never changed before, so it's probably about time. And then the one that did go out I had changed about a year ago, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it's not electrical, it's not related to the ECM or anything like that, and that the bulbs just went bad. But I got to change those at some point, probably today, and then go from there. We'll see. I'll keep you guys posted on if anything changes with that. But right now, the starter's doing okay and things are all right. Next question comes from Mike M. Nate, are you going to any more work camping gigs? At some point, yeah, more than likely. I'll be doing some other work camping jobs. As of right now, obviously, I'm here in New Orleans for the winter time, so I'll be here, you know, for the next few months, more than likely. But after that, I'm definitely thinking about other work camping jobs. I'm thinking about maybe going back to the sugar beet harvest in the fall. We'll see though. I'm certainly open to it. Next question comes from No Go Pronto. Speaking of guitar, how about a song? Anything. Go. At some point, not in this video, but I will I did do one once, but at some point I'll definitely try to get some more music. It takes a little bit of time to record and all that, and then it like adds another step to the whole video recording process. So I have to have some extra time to do it, but I definitely want to start playing a few more songs for y'all and getting them on there. Next question comes from I Conundrum. They say, "Hey Nate, if you upgraded to any camper van or RV, which make, model, year would you choose? Would you aim to take a regular van and customize it and maintain the ability to park stealth, or would you get something classified as like a Class B that came with everything already to dwell in? If yes, would you boondock on BLM land to maintain cost effectiveness? How hard would it be to adjust no longer having the ability to park freely? One of the main benefits, you're currently a great saving behind to pay right now." Yeah, that's a good question. So I haven't really thought too much about it. I'm a little bit torn between going with something like a stealth van, maybe like a newer model Nissan NV200, like a compact cargo van. Those, I believe, have 6 feet of length inside by something close to 5 feet. So it's a little bit bigger than the Element and a little bit more headroom, but you still can't stand up all the way. So I would think about converting something like that if I was really going to try to maintain as much stealthiness as possible. I also like the idea of getting a Class B though as well, just because you would have, I could stand up for one. I'd be able to like cook inside, and it would just be more spacious and better overall. And that's not to say that Class Bs lose all senses of stealth. I mean, you can certainly park a Class B in most, I mean, at least a smaller one, like a 19-foot or even smaller than that. I think they have some smaller ones, but in regular parking spaces and not really have any issues. So I'm definitely open to the idea of going with a Class B as well. Probably a road trek as opposed to like a Sprinter conversion, but maybe one of the older model, like mid-2000s road treks or so, if I could afford it. But yeah, if it's anything and there's no budget, then I would probably go with that and sacrifice having some of that stealth for greater comfort inside. I always just really like seeing those. They seem pretty neat, but I don't know. That's a decision that's pretty tough to make for me right now, because I really don't have to make it, and I don't really want to. I'm pretty happy with the Element as it is, but I think I would still continue to urban camp though. I know you asked about boondocking in BLM land. I think I would continue to try to stay in cities. And you're right, I mean, it would be a little bit more difficult in a big Class B RV, but at the same time, you see them everywhere in San Diego, and I don't think too many people have problems, so maybe I'd just go back to San Diego and hang out in my Class B, we'll see. Next question comes from Nomadic Paw Prince. "I will soon be living on a slightly larger scale than your Element in a 27-foot fifth wheel, and I also find it harder to meet or date people who are interested in similar or full-time minimalist lifestyle who like to travel, especially in my age range. How do women you are interested in or date react to the way that you live? If you met someone special with a similar lifestyle, how do you think it would work? Would it be better for you both to maintain your own van separately, or to venture into like a joint ownership of another van or something like that?" Those are good questions. I think as of right now, I mean, I have been like dating girls here and there and meeting folks and all that, and you know, generally people are open to the idea, like they're very intrigued by it. But that being said, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, it could just be the people that I've met recently or whatever it may be, but there definitely seems to be like a little bit of a, I don't know, I guess a little bit of a problem with the idea that I live in a van, because I don't know, it's so out there, it's so different from the norm, and generally speaking, when I say that to somebody, I mean, girl or boy, it doesn't matter, you know, man or woman, it doesn't make a difference who it is. They're gonna be, I'm gonna be the first person they've ever met that lives in a van. So it's at least the folks that I've been hanging out with, so here in New Orleans in particular. But it does put me in kind of an interesting spot, and it is a little bit different. I do think that people think differently about this whole lifestyle in different parts of the country, and I think that, you know, in California it certainly is more common, and people are maybe more open to it, but it is what it is. I mean, it's certainly, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, it hasn't been easy to do that. But and then in terms of if I ever do meet someone with a similar lifestyle, maintaining your own vans would certainly work. It's really hard to say on that. I mean, I'm not opposed to joint ownership of like an RV or a van or something like that either. I think that would be perfectly fine. I think maybe, you know, two people living in the Element full time would be pretty difficult. There's really not a whole lot of space in here for 2 people, but anything bigger than this I think would work out really well. Next question comes from Gordon Yu. Say, hey Nate, if you didn't have a moonroof, how would you install your solar panel? Where would the wire go? He's referring to this solar wire right here that I run through the moonroof here. I don't know, if I didn't have it, I guess I would probably have to drill a hole in the roof somewhere and then seal it up really well and then just kind of drop it down. I mean, I probably wouldn't do it right here. I'd probably do it like towards the side if I could. But yeah, I mean, that's I never really thought of that before because I always had this and it's worked out so well. But yeah, I mean, I guess the next step would be to, you know, to drill a hole, which I've managed to avoid doing, and I really don't feel comfortable with doing because I don't want to leak or anything like that and have to deal with that. But yeah, that would be the next step, I think, would be to have to drill a hole to get that wire in from the roof into the element. Looks like, Gordon, you also asked here, how critical is the moonroof to your full-time van experience? I mean, so in general, I mean, this thing has been really, really nice. I mean, it's great because it provides ventilation. I can pop it open and get some fresh air at night, and it's really, really hard to tell that it's open when you're walking by, I mean, unless you're really looking for it. And then also, I mean, it's great, like I said, to get that fresh air, but then it's designed so that if it is like raining outside or something like that, that rain will not leak in even while it's open. So it's really nice for that, for ventilation purposes. I don't use it a whole lot, like on cooler nights. It's been cool, it's the winter time now. I really don't find myself using it very much, but it's good if I ever need to get a breath of fresh air, and that's pretty much it. So I wouldn't say it's like the most critical thing in the world, but it's certainly nice to have. Next question comes from Shelly Scott. She says, you sing so good. Any thoughts on a singing career or even incorporating some singing in your videos would be awesome. Thank you. I will try to do a few more covers and a few more songs and stuff in videos next year and moving forward. I do like to do that, but I don't know about a career as a musician. It certainly is not an easy career path to choose, and I don't know if I'm cut out for it. Next question comes from Eric Moyer. He say, hi Nate, I'm an avid watcher of your videos. Has your sleeping pattern changed since you started sleeping in the element full time? From other videos on the subject, it seems most people like to park later in the evening and then leave early in the morning. That would probably rule out sleeping late. That's a good question. I did. I remember when I was thinking about this lifestyle, I thought, oh, things are going to be crazy because you have to get up so early and get in so late. I'm not going to be able to sleep enough and all this and that. But I mean, there are nights where I stay up late and I'm hanging out with friends or whatever, and you know, I'll sleep in until 9 or 10 o'clock, especially in the wintertime because it's cooler. I mean, when I was in San Diego for the summer, I mean, as you know, 9, 10 o'clock start rolling around, like, you can't really stay sleeping because it gets really, really hot inside the van. But when it's the wintertime, I mean, it's pretty comfortable in here all day for the most part. So it's been okay. I've been able to kind of sleep in, and I mean, I do try to get up and move, especially if I'm in a busy area. You know, I'm gonna get woken up by traffic and stuff anyway. So, you know, when that happens, yeah, I mean, it affects my sleep pattern. But on those nights, I try to get to bed early enough and try to get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and for the most part, I've been able to do that. I mean, even on, like I said, the nights where if I'm up until 2 a.m. hanging out with friends or whatever, I mean, I'll sleep until 9 or 10 and get my 7 to 8 hours and don't really have any issues. I don't really find myself ever like sleeping in until 11 or 12, just because, like I said, it gets either warm in here or, I mean, it gets just too busy outside because there's people awake, you know, driving by and all that. But for the most part, my sleeping patterns really haven't changed too much. It's worked out pretty well. Next question comes from Marion Miller. Rocking the shirt. He's talking about my Cleveland Browns shirt that I wore in my last video. I was curious about how you became a Browns fan. I grew up in New England originally, so everyone thinks that I would be a Patriots fan. But when the Browns came back into the league back in 2000, I don't know, I just kind of hopped on the bandwagon. I used to like play with the Browns in like the video games and stuff like that, and I don't know, I hopped on the bandwagon when they became a new team, you know, an expansion team in the NFL, and I kind of just stuck with them. I still have my Tim Couch jersey from all those years ago that I still wear from time to time, but I think it's back home right now. But yeah, I don't know, I've just stuck with it, unfortunately. Next question comes from John Lee. Hi Nate, how did you mount your cabinets in the Element? Is there anything bolted directly onto the Element frame, or did you attach things some other way? That's a good question. So it's not bolted anywhere to the frame itself. It's designed to fit in here very, very snugly. You know, like this part here is all flush up against the Element wall. We tried to cut it so it was almost exactly fitting in there, and there's a frame underneath it. And if you check out, I have a video called like build details onto Element Camper build details, but it goes into more detail. But there's a frame underneath made out of 2x4s in like I-beam type fashion, and then everything is built on top of that. So the frame itself we built just out of like some trim that we had, and then we kind of put it all together. But it's all nothing is attached to the Element. It's all just, I mean, it fits really, really well, and it's all just kind of mounted on top of that frame underneath. Next question comes from April Fisher. She says, so here's a couple of questions for you. Do you ever take the Reflectix down from the windows to enjoy the view outside, or are they permanent? So to answer that, I can take them down. It's really, really easy to, because it's just like the fabric here, and it's Velcro, so I can literally just pull them off with one swipe and then put them back on. It's really easy, but I very rarely do right now because I'm kind of in the city, so there's not really too many views for one, and then for two, I'm trying to maintain stealthiness if I'm parked, so I generally will not take them down. But I mean, I certainly have, you know, when if I was, actually I don't think I ever really have, but I could, let's say that I could take them down and enjoy a view if I ever was parked, you know, right by a nice view and not in the city. But for the most part, I've been urban camping, so I think I might feel claustrophobic having those up all the time. That makes sense. It would be nice to be able to see outside more, I suppose. And from your experience, do you feel like they really do a good job of keeping it warm inside, or more just for privacy? I'd say they're more just for privacy. I don't know how much in terms of like temperature regulation that the Reflectix does. I like having the Reflectix on top of the black felt, because when I put a light on in here, it reflects the light a little bit better and it makes it easier to see everything. But I mean, generally speaking, I think that the contribution to, you know, how warm it is in here or how cold it is in here and regulating a comfortable temperature in here is pretty minimal overall. Next question comes from Albie Chevis. They say, hey mate, you do well in front of a camera. Did you ever entertain the idea of a career in field reporting for a cable network? You could travel to many destinations and make good money. You sure are a natural, well-spoken, and exceptionally good-looking. Thank you. I haven't really thought about doing anything like that, though. I don't know. It does seem like an interesting option, but I'd have to really think about it more. And it's interesting. I do have a couple of friends that are in like cable news and stuff like that, so maybe I could reach out to them and see what they think. But I haven't, to this point, I haven't really thought of anything like that, any sort of a career like that. Next question comes from ModinSpac01. They say, hey, do you have Wi-Fi in your van to, it looks like maybe to upload your videos? I do have, I have internet access. I use like a Boost mobile hotspot. It's on Sprint's network. I get 10 gigabytes a month, but I'm thinking about switching to Verizon full time, even though it's a little bit more expensive and I'll get less data, just because Sprint's network has not been very reliable, even here in New Orleans, which is like one of their hubs, I think, but I haven't been too happy with it. So I think I'm going to be switching to a Verizon hotspot, and then I primarily will use like, you know, Starbucks Wi-Fi and find free Wi-Fi in certain places, and it works out pretty well. Next question comes from Greg Miller. Nate, do you black out the Reflectix so it doesn't look obvious? Yes, yeah, I have pieces of black felt on the other side of the Reflectix, so when you look in, it just looks like you're looking into a blacked out window. How often do you encounter police at night, and do you talk to them, and what do you tell them? How long do you stay in an area before relocating? So in terms of relocating, I change my spot every single night. I never park in the same spot more than once in the same week, so I'm always kind of switching it up and always moving around. And I have encountered police once before, and then I've had like issues with like security guards. I think I mentioned this in other videos, but I've had more problems in like Walmart parking lots than I have on the street, just blending in on the street. And I think part of that is because the Element is so stealthy. But yeah, I mean, that one time I encountered police, they were very, very open to the idea of living in a van. The guy was actually pretty impressed by it. I thought it was pretty cool, but he also wanted me to move to a different spot, and he told me where to go, and I just went over to a parking lot. It was like a Target parking lot where other van dwellers were, and there were a lot of RVers and stuff in there, and I went over there. But yeah, I mean, if I ever do encounter police, and if it is police, I absolutely will cooperate with them, as long as I can confirm that it's police. I mean, if it's someone just knocking saying they're the police, then I'm gonna wait a second. But if I see like blue lights, I see a cop car, like I'm obviously gonna cooperate with them, and you know, and talk to them, and be respectful, and hopefully they'll be respectful to me as well. And the last question here comes from John Schechtel. It says, "Hey Nate, JP here. Quick question: how would you, what would you say were some principles and values that have helped guide your van life? Journey?" That's an interesting question. Principles and values that have helped guide my van life journey. I think that remembering to, I guess, not stress out too much about the little things is important. I think that also the ideas of minimalism and that principle and that value for me has been hugely important. I mean, a big part of what drew me into this lifestyle was the idea that I could take everything that I own and comfortably fit it along with me in my car, and then drive around and go wherever I want and have the freedom to kind of pursue what I want to pursue, and I think that has been probably the most important guiding principle. But yeah, I mean, also just not worrying about the little things that go wrong, because they're, everybody faces them every day, and those are things that could be problematic for all of us. So that probably as well. Also the principle that I've learned a lot about the principle that like the grass is greener on the other side. I'm thinking about making a video talking about that more, but that's another interesting one, that by traveling from place to place, you always convince yourself that things are going to be better on the other side, and generally speaking, they're not. It's just exactly the same, or it's, just different. It's just different. It's not necessarily better or worse, but it's just different. So, I'd say those are probably the main ones, the main principles and values as of right now. But that's an interesting question, JP. So that sums it up for all of the questions this week. If you have questions, obviously post them below, and I'll answer them in the next video. Like I said, the next one will be on December 27th, but I will likely be recording it on Friday the 23rd. So make sure you ask your questions before the 23rd so that I can get them all answered. And if you ask it after that, it's probably not. It's gonna have to wait till the next one at some point next year. But thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to y'all in the next video.